I sent it to Facebook already because I know you're busy, so I sent it to Facebook. It's already on Ukraine's Facebook page.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And I hope that everyone who has joined this great event has a good mood and everyone are ready for the talk. And we are very happy to see all of you today. So we will have the pilot project with the interpretation because we never did it. And we hope that with this option, we can widen our audience and have a lot of funds of the global real estate around the world. And everyone are ready for the talk. And we are very happy. Dima, please switch off your sound now in Zoom. Pilot project.
I can't make switch because I haven't turned the webinar in the online.
Option we can. I mean your sound, which in Zoom. A lot of funds of the real estate.
I have a good voice from you, but have very bad voice from interpreter.
Please switch off your sound now. But you probably should switch off switch the language. Change the language.
Webinar in the online.
I mean your sound, which in Zoom.
Where is?
Дима, и down внизу написано язык, перевод. Выбери, пожалуйста, там русский язык.
Окей, есть.
И выключи сейчас звук внизу, выключить звук. Когда ты не говоришь, нажми выключить. Да, спасибо. So, 3 p.m., 2 p.m. Paris time, and we are happy to see all of you here. I propose to start our event. I think all the technical issues we have solved for now. So thank you very much for joining us. And let me introduce myself. My name is Katerina Polipchuk. I'm Executive Director of FIAPSI Ukraine and FIAPSI International Board Member. And we are happy to start this pilot first international online panel discussion of real estate investors together with local international real estate experts. And we are happy that today we have representatives of 7 countries. So we have representatives from Ukraine, Bulgaria, Romania, Georgia, India, UK, Germany, and we are so happy. And of course, USA, Raj is helping us. So it's like eight country together, all together. And I would like to give a welcome word to our FIAPSI Ukraine president, Dmitry Kavganich, who will say a few words to you. Please, Dmitry.
Thank you, Katerina. I would like to say shortly that I'm very thankful to all the speakers and experts who could join these events and contribute their expertise to the development of the markets of Ukraine, Bulgaria, Georgia, and Romania. And I also would like to thank to our FIAPSI Ukraine team for the organization of the event in this innovative format, including the simulation translation into Ukrainian language. Hope you will join and will use your participants' case all the information and market invite which you will get from this event. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Dmitro. You have mentioned our experts.
Good luck, and Katerina.
Yes, thank you, thank you. You have mentioned our experts, so let me introduce our keynote speakers today, this afternoon, who will answer all the questions, including my questions, questions of the global experts who are present here from different countries, and the questions from our audience. If there will be no time to answer, for example, some questions from audience, we will ask our experts to answer them after the event, and we will send the answers to you together with additional information, probably, which you would like to have after this event. So let me introduce Jörg Barin from Germany. Yes, he's Director of Project and Investments in Re-Rise GmbH, and this is an independent and internationally operating company for the management of innovative investments in real estate project developments and portfolios in emerging markets. Jörg has managed over 40 real estate funds with a total investment volume up to over 10 billion euro, with more than 65,000 investors and almost 700 properties and project developments in such countries as Germany, USA, UK, and now France, Sweden, China, Brazil, Romania, United Arab Emirates, and Montenegro. This is amazing portfolio, Jörg. Congratulations. Also, the other speaker is Michael Russell. He's a director of the London-based investment advisory business at Re-Rise. He's experienced international property professional operating at board level, having been CFO of a number of property development companies. Amongst other projects, currently managing a fund in its third investment in China, where he has a direct responsibility for partner and project identification, deal organizations, client investor relations, and fund management, full fund management. Having worked in UK, China, India, Bulgaria, Romania, and Brazilian property markets, Michael offers a wealth of relevant international property expertise, so we can have his opinions today, very, very experienced. And the third speaker is Suchit Punos. He's a founder and CEO of Red Ribbon Asset Management, which is a mainstream impact investment, investing in projects that deliver measurable environmental and social impact whilst delivering market rate return. Red Ribbon invests in UK-India corridor in a foreign venture capital and regulated funds with a special focus on real estate and disruptive construction and prop tech. He's of the view that emerging economies will offer the greatest opportunities in the coming decades. So I think that these three great speakers, keynote speakers, which we have today, will answer all the questions which we'll have, and I will introduce our experts a little bit further. So now I will give my first question to all of you three. So please give your idea. What is the real difference between emerging market economy before the pandemic and after pandemic, and which markets you still consider as emerging? So probably Jörg, you can start, and then we can hear others. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this introduction, and welcome and hello to everybody outside. It's a quite exciting event what we have right now. Yeah, so and it's not even less exciting, this question, so because I think everybody would like to know what will happen after the pandemic, because we are still inside in the middle of it, even if there are, say, easing some measures, but maybe this virus will never go away in our future, so we have to live with that. I think in general the emerging markets will have, of course, a damage out of that, but at the end maybe it takes a little bit longer, but will come back to the track where they are maybe were before of this pandemic, maybe with a different strategy from the investment perspective, maybe with a different strategy from the real estate perspective. But I think these emerging markets, who we consider as emerging markets, which are Romania, Bulgaria, Ukraine, Georgia, and the Baltics as well, right, that China and India, I think they were on a quite good way in general, and a pandemic like that will not throw them back into the, let's say, Stone Age. Definitely they will make their way. It will take a little bit longer than expected, but I think with a, let's say, turning of their strategy of investment focuses, I think you will make it quite well. And it takes a little bit longer, but this it will be. Yeah.
So probably we can hear Michael as well. What do you think? Because I know that you work now with the Chinese market, and we also considered Chinese market as emerging market recently. So what happened there, and if it's still the same, and how we can compare it with the European emerging markets?
Thank you very much, Katya. Thank you for the introduction. And thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I think there have been many definitions of emerging markets and what defines an emerging market to what defines a developed market. And in essence, I think the main criteria is the development of both the social economy and also the rule of law and the reduction in corruption that exists. There are also various other definitions. So I think that the countries that were emerging prior to the pandemic can still be described as emerging post the pandemic. The question will be, I think, at what level they are. But if you look at somewhere like China, for example, which also sheds light on maybe where we're going as Europeans in regard to the pandemic. They went into the pandemic officially at the kind of end of December, beginning of January, and they came out of it in March. So they spent 2 to 3 months in lockdown. It had a big impact on all walks of society, with probably the exception of internet sales. But what has occurred since the easing of measures is that there has been a bounce back. So if you look at the performance of residential sales, for example, in China post March, then you will see that sales have increased. Number of visits to sales rooms have increased, and therefore, and it will probably take another 3 or 4 months, but then they should be back to where they were before. I think from an investor perspective, then I think people will back away and they will just wait on the sidelines and see what's happening before they start getting back into the market. That's my view.
Thank you, Sujit. What you can suggest from the perspective of the Indian market?
Yes, thank you, firstly, for the opportunity to FIAPSI Ukraine for this. Unprecedented times, I'm sure we all know, and I hope everybody on this call is as safe and well as they can be in these circumstances. My view is, in terms of categorization of markets, I think quite often the word emerging market is used loosely of a wide variety of economies. I think if we were to deep down further down, you would have fringe markets, frontier, emerging, growth, and then developed economies. And why I said this is, in particular, if you recall Jim O'Neill, the Goldman Sachs asset management chairman, who coined the word BRICS, which is for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and then they added South Africa to it. He thought that any global GDP that was more than 2 to 2.5% of the global GDP should be categorized as a growth market. Whilst the emerging would be economies less than that in size. So that's just my thought. I think in that sense, it's very important. And I concur with what Jörg and Michael had said, in that these are different economies at various stages of socio-political evolution. That being said, we are in the midst of a pandemic. I think we all have had a pandemic, the last one being Spanish flu. What is most certain in our view is that there are clearly three phases. Phase one is where we are today, where countries are thinking about lockdown being opened up. We have a second phase, which is from lockdown to vaccine, and then post-vaccine being found. I think those are the three phases that we see on our dashboard at the moment. And I think in the context of India, we are following that exactly the same sort of phases in terms of our strategy. And I think it's very important that we all realize that real estate is a long-term play. So we should not be overly reacting to what was going to happen within the next sort of 4 to 8 quarters. We're all not in the business of algo trading on equities. We are here to build real assets for people, end users who want to live and work out of it. And that's never going to go away. And no pandemic can go more than the fatality rates, and no more than the true fatality rates, if you were to follow the Swedish argument, is less than 0.5%. So let's understand that there will be three phases in our view. So what is today? I think today we should simply sit back and be analyzing what is happening and not take any action. Phase two would be to verify, because that's a stage when you would actually get some meaningful data. And then comes in applying that verified data in terms of macro strategy. And when I say macro strategy in terms of investment in real estate, I'm sure you've come across a whole raft of discussions around, will co-working go away? Will co-living go away? Are we going to have serviced offices? Are commercial offices completely going to disappear? Are large companies, and you hear about how the two arguments, you've got Google saying that they will need more offices, and then there is other sites like Facebook saying you may not have to return at all to work. So my view is at this particular time right now, and I must quote Warren Buffett's line, which is a great line, which says that forecasts talk, say everything about the forecaster, but doesn't really say anything about the future. So I think we need to appreciate this is a time when we need to sit back, relax. It's not the end of the world. This too shall pass, and we just need to realign and see and fine-tune and improve our operations, our strategies, and procedures in place so that we can increase the margin when the market does turn. Thank you.
Thank you very much for such a deep fall in this question now. I'm so happy that we have now here not only the moderator, as for example me, who can ask the question, but also we have the international experienced great experts who can be great askers, yes, who can ask the questions, our experts here. And I would like to pass the word.
Oh.
And so that probably should be first in line. And I would like to pass the word to Anna Koval, our past president, and she's the CEO of SCG, International Real Estate Investment Projects Company. She has a couple of questions to the experts about the Ukrainian market. Please.
Thank you, Katerina. And thank you, dear experts, speakers, and guests for joining us today. And of course, before my questions, I will say a few words about the Ukrainian real estate market during the pandemic. So what we have now in Ukraine today, from an economic point of view, the situation in the commercial real estate market is better than it was in previous crisis years in 2008 and 2014, 2015. Now in retail sector, we have closed trade locations and malls. Revenues from rent in the mall fell to almost zero. Tenants have faced the unprecedented loss of business income and losses that will take many months to recover, even after the crisis. The situation with office real estate is much more optimistic. At the moment, there is no reduction in the number of tenants, and negotiations on the lease and even buying of new office spaces, which began before the introduction of quarantine, are ongoing. However, due to reduction in operating activities, some tenants sent requests to landlords to reduce the rental rate for the quarantine period. Warehousing services are now more in demand than ever before, allowing most logistics and warehousing operators to stay running throughout the crisis. Demand for warehouses from food retail, pharmaceuticals, and e-commerce has intensified. In the residential market, we can see lower investment activity, especially in the new build property which is under construction. At the same time, demand for countryside real estate is growing. And in the investment market, we observe the suspension of investment activity until further stabilization of the situation. Speculative investors at the same time have already established themselves in the market, looking for objects which with a significant discount from the market value. So that was briefly information about Ukrainian market, and now the question for our investors will be like, so first, what are the main requirements you make for investment project or for local developers as partners for mutual business in such a market reality? And the second question is, which real estate sector in Ukraine do you consider the most promising for future investment? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. So please, who wants to start answering?
Well, I will try to give an, let's say, educated answer. And well, it is a quite difficult situation at all. So I think it's just a snapshot at the moment, what's going on in the real estate market, because we are still in this crisis, and let's say the economical result we will show maybe in a few months only, or maybe next year. I give you an example. We expect in Germany insolvencies from around about 50,000 companies. So it's not right now. Everybody pays more or less his rent. Yeah, but maybe in the future, not anymore. So this is at the moment to, let's say, to have a view on a market is really just a snapshot. You have to think what will happen if they cannot afford to pay their rent anymore. And you have faced this problem already. And so this means the requirements, what an investor should have, should be a quite stable economy, which means internal, yeah. There is not, let's say, a lot of employment, workplaces, and also not companies going down. And I think it is in every country right now that companies are going down, that people go into insolvency, cannot pay nothing anymore. This will be a little bit of a picture of the future. So that's why I think in Ukraine, the market is quite local right now. So of course there are deals going on. And people will buy maybe some apartments, and people want to buy apartments, but they don't have money for that. So they have to sell something else, which is now with a dropping price. So it's we have a chicken egg problem right now. And I think what you said at the end, so that warehousing and logistics is booming right now. I think from a perspective, from an investor or of an investment representative, this should be the focus. Yeah, you should go for, because you have a quite big land, quite big country, cheap land. You can offer even to, let's say, quite close European countries to make warehouses for them. And as far as I know, some companies do even, let's say, go out of China because of this trouble. Yeah, so this means this can be a big opportunity for Ukraine to switch a little bit the focus on, let's say, warehousing, logistics, or light industrial, how it's called in real estate business. So, and not thinking about office spaces, because I think the investor from outside are more concerned to invest in office, because they have the same problems in their country, because the companies reduce their spaces and think over of, I don't know, home working, home office, what they can do, what they can change for the future. Some companies, maybe even they expand their office space, but they can afford. And they do it not, let's say, in companies, in countries like Ukraine or Bulgaria, or not, maybe not even in Germany. Yeah, so they do it somewhere else in their own country, but they can afford to do that. The small companies, they cannot. They reduce. They think over and say, well, it works that someone works from home, so I continue that. Yeah. So I think your big future can be and will be, I'm quite convinced about that, logistic, warehouse, light industrial for that, really to make a big campaign out of that, that you can offer better conditions and closer to Europe, and you have the best environment at all. You have let's say a Black Sea in front of the door with harbors without end. Yes, so you can transport all over the world quite easily. So, and this you should transport and transform into all others investment brains. Yeah. So this is what I can say about Ukraine.
Thank you very much, Jörg. I think, Anna, you have got a very good answer and a lot of work now you have for the future, for the repositioning of some kind of investment proposals for investors. And if other experts do not have anything to add to this, probably you have like 1 minute to share to answer. If not, then we will go to probably to other countries, and I think that we will have much more insights in comparison, probably in comparison about countries. So let's go to Bulgarian expert. Ivan, are you with us? Because I don't see you on the screen. Yes, you are with us. So let me introduce Ivan Belkov. It's president of FIAPSI Bulgaria, and he's a chairman of the Bulgarian Association of Facility Management. And of course, we want to hear a couple of words what is happening now on the Bulgarian post-pandemic market, and what are your questions, please?
Hello, everyone. Basically, there are a lot of similarities of what I've just heard from Anna, and I would rather focus on a few of the differences that we might have. Bulgarian real estate market, especially after the lessons learned from the crisis we had some 12 years ago, decided to keep very low profile, not to go into a lot of major projects and developments, and probably that kept a lot of local players down to earth and didn't went bankrupt or below the water for certain reasons. What we just had in the last couple of months, we have complete lockdown. All businesses were pretty much shut down, especially those who are engaged with daily interactions with end users, and that of course caused a lot of distress for the shopping centers, for the real estate brokers per se, and a lot of other related activities. And all of us were pretty much focused on the effects that we are currently experiencing, but we also kept an eye on what should we do after the lockdown is lifted, and we just had it a couple of days ago. So shopping malls are open starting from yesterday. We have a slow revival of activities, and strangely enough, a lot of media is really refocusing their activities on the real estate market as one of the available solutions for some positive news. What we have now is that in all sectors we have drastic drops of the activities, but not that much of assets values and asking prices, if we are referring to those who are put on display some months ago. And I think that's pretty much because of the reasons I had lessons learned from the past. Once we had that European Union accession, and this is the difference what we have with Ukraine, a lot of our businesses went pretty much dependent on the Euro funding. A lot of infrastructure projects created a business circles of their own, and a lot of businesses actually started to reshaping their, I would say, short and mid-term business plans based on what projects the government or the local municipality is undergoing. And lack of other activities, of course, affected the real estate sectors and markets. And I would say that from the experience we had in the past 10, 12 years, there is absolute shortage of international real estate investors and developers compared to the amount of local ones. And my question, if you allow me to all the experts, including the gentlemen that have experience from Far East, is: do you see the lack of international activities as a popular channel?
We don't hear you.
Should I repeat?
Yes, please repeat. Repeat from the
question is: do you see do you see the lack of international investors and developers in our market as a serious problem or an opportunity, as the famous Chinese proverb says, for them to actually rediscover Bulgaria as an emerging market, what we just had 12 years ago when we were the talk of the town?
Thank you very much. And who wants to answer this question?
Maybe I can add something which may be interesting. I first started working in Bulgaria predominantly in shopping centers in 2009. And the effect of the financial crisis on the Bulgarian retail market was catastrophic. I mean, yields went out to double digit, rents collapsed, tenants weren't available to take space, and the whole property market was based upon cheap money coming in from EU states such as and banks, mainly Austrian and Greek. And the financial crisis just closed those avenues of money down. I think that this crisis is completely different because the rental levels in Bulgaria currently are holding up. The yields haven't moved, though it's a bit too early probably to say what's going to happen to yields. And there is still plenty of liquidity in the market. So people shouldn't be squeezed, developers squeezed into no cash, therefore they had no choice. Banks foreclosed on loans and or took over assets. I don't believe that will happen this time. Certainly also that the banks have got the experience that they didn't have in 2009, as they had never lived through a financial crisis. Do I think this is an advantage or a disadvantage? I think that if you are choosing your opportunity carefully and you are clear in what you want, then I think, and I've always thought that Bulgaria represents a good opportunity. I think, especially in the office market, from an income position, I think that yields in Sofia are in the region of 7.5%, 8% for prime. Rental levels are up at around 18 euros per square meter per month. If you can borrow at 2%, it makes a very good opportunity and something worth looking at. The problem, as with all emerging markets, is where is the exit for the investor? If you don't have a well established liquid property market where investors from all over the world are coming in, it does make it very difficult. So I think if you are investing in the Bulgarian market, which I still believe is a good opportunity, you will have to recognize that you're going to be in there for the long term. And if an opportunity comes to dispose of the asset to an international investor when yields are better, then I think you should take it. But at the moment, you can probably look at something in a leveraged return will be north of 14%. I mean, from a European perspective, that is fantastic. And I don't believe that we should turn our eyes away from countries like Bulgaria and Romania for that purpose. But it's an income play, not an asset appreciation play, in my opinion.
Thank you very much, Michael. Probably, Suchit, maybe you have something to add to this from your market perspective.
Yeah, look, I mean, I touch on two things. Something which Anna asked as well. I think in these sort of circumstances, we as an investor, when we look for developers, this is a great time for developers, as I was saying earlier, to analyze themselves to see what is it that they can do better in terms of, I mean, right now we all know that the whole world is online. This is a great time to formulate your marketing strategy. Everybody who was not available before the pandemic is surely available for an hour. So this is a great time to do your outreach program, make that initial contact. You will get some of the most senior-most decision makers in large investment funds from the US to Japan, UK, wherever, for that half an hour, which you probably will not get, which you probably will have to book in advance at the MIPIM or something like that. So for developers, this is a great time. You've got your staff working from home, and they should be made to do research work to look at what are the new target opportunities. So that's one housekeeping point for developers. The other that I would say is about about gearing and leverage. We had a lot of fatalities in 2008 when it came to people over gearing. I'm keen to see in these markets, as we are in the Indian market, to see who are the ones who did not learn the lesson last time, who are going to learn the lesson this time, and who are the ones who did learn and kept their housekeeping tight. So I agree with Michael in terms of yield play for Bulgaria or the Romanian market. One does need to filter and see what's the quality of the leveraging, because now one could argue that if tenants are not going to be there to pay the rent, how are you going to service your debt? Equally, I think one should also appreciate you may perhaps get capital slightly cheaper, subject to your track record. So good housekeeping, and that encompasses a whole raft of things to look at within your housekeeping. We've got one developer whom we are working with. They've been going for 52 odd years in India, and they have engaged their design team to come up with smart products. So the theme is smart products. They're doing design discussions and focus groups to look at how can they look at improving their existing design, theme and ecosystem. So we are engaging with them closely to see what they would come out of it. And there's a whole raft of architectural and design and consultants, students who come on. They're all sitting at home, getting onto Zoom calls to look at what is the next new product they can come out with. And I think the closing line here is most certainly those who are going to be attracting investments, probably not now, but as soon as investments start opening up, are going to be the ones who can show that there is an underlying thought process of conservative, cautious approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these great answers. I probably, Ivan, you have got your answer, which you wanted to hear. And let's go to the next country. We have with us today a Georgian expert, Irakli Kilauridze. He's a member of the board of FIAPSI Georgia, and he's also managing partner of Colors International. So I think that his expertise is very wide, and we can hear his question, his market overview, and also I will post in the chat the link to the website, to the platform which Colors International Georgia has prepared for the market, and I think that every attendee can go there to see whether they have some information for them. Please.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you, FIAPSI, for this opportunity. And as Katya mentioned, I wear two hats. I'm board member of FIAPSI Georgia chapter and also managing the Colliers office in Georgia. So Katya very kindly will share with you a special website that we created for the COVID, let's say, effects for Georgian market to guide through for the investors, occupiers, or the developers. I think for those of you who are more interested in details, I think it's a good platform to get more information. In general, I will give you just a little bit of background. So I think every country we are fighting in two fronts right now. One is this pandemic and medical issues that we are confronting, and the second is how we're going to stimulate the economy to, let's say, restart the economy. That is, I think, in every country the same situation. It's on the kind of a pause button. So in Georgia, what I can say is that from the pandemic point of view, I think what we can distinguish ourselves is that quite early measures were taken by the government, and I think that took kind of effect in the numbers. We have just looking at the current numbers, only 701 confirmed cases, more than half of that already recovered, and only 12 deaths. And I think that's a kind of outstanding figures, if you can say, in the region and in the world. And the second, on the economic standpoint of view, the size of the stimulus that the government is coming up together with international donors and, let's say, supporters of Georgia, mainly it's IMF, World Bank, United States, European Union. It's quite considerable. So it's around $3.5 billion, which is around 20% of the total country's economy. And that is quite considerable. I think it's only that comes to my mind that the Japan that is doing such a big intervention into the stimulus than other countries. So my question is, taking these two, let's say, aspects, can Georgia somehow capitalize on those? On first case, saying that we're quite developed in a way that we have right people in the medical sector. They're doing their good job and preventing the spread of the virus, especially in the situation. There are a lot of talks that we should expect the second wave by end of the year and before the vaccine will be ready. And the second, the size of the stimulus that the Georgian government has come up to stimulate the economy. Do you think these two factors can be somehow distinguishing and selling points for a country to the investors that maybe are already in Georgia to reassure their kind of confidence in the market, or for the new investors that are looking for new opportunities, and maybe Georgia could be a good, let's say, haven place for the taking these two, let's say, fundamentals into place. And my second question would be, which is related to this, there are a lot of talks that there will be more focus on local and, let's say, regional investors. Do you think that investment funds and investors will become more kind of regional and local rather than that international that we've seen over the last maybe 20 years? Thank you.
Thank you, Irakli. Thank you very much. I think that these two questions very, very deep. Please, who wants to start with the first question?
Well, I try my best, yes. So first of all, I would like to send you a big congratulation what your country has done, especially your Prime Minister, I think, Georgi Kakaria, I think is his name, yeah. Very well done. And it even deserved an article in the German press that you are a model student during the coronavirus crisis. Yeah, so you made everything really in a perfect way. And this brings me, let's say, to the point from the investor's perspective. This will give a lot of trust, yeah, to people from outside that everything in your country looks like it worked very well in this crisis, very well. And as far as I understood, you will open up quite soon again, even for the tourism. And I think this will be a big benefit. So for the tourism, which will come back then, even from, I don't know, more even Western European countries, because there is only a 3.5-hour flight from there. It's like going to Majorca. And so I think this will bring a lot of trust to private people as well, thinking about, well, what's going on in this country. They will transport their experience back home. And of course, there are some, let's say, I think you're not on every list on investors, yeah, not on every investor's list, let's say it like that. But sure. definitely on some who see the potential, especially in the tourism hospitality market, yeah. I think your real estate business for residential something will be also quite local, yeah. maybe if you plan something and this is your problem, you have a quite small country, so there's a limited space for everything, and you don't want to plaster it completely with beton, with concrete. So that's why I think there's just a limited possibility for big investors from outside to come in. Probably there's really, as you mentioned, a big chance for local funds, local investment funds, additionally with small, like we are, small investment managers who also bring maybe some money from outside to speed up maybe your, let's say, your growing. So this is my point of view on Georgia. So, but you will have a big potential. So probably you will be one of the big winners outside of this Corona crisis. What it means in terms of hospitality and tourism, definitely.
Yes, I think that's that comment well taken, because government now is already thinking to open the borders from 1st of July. Of course, the question is whether we'll be ready to receive the guests from our traditional markets, and it very much depends what's kind of pandemic situation is there. But there is always already a talk with direct negotiation with some country to have, let's say, bilateral, let's say, open borders and some kind of system to control the pandemic spread.
And there was another question of Irakli about the localization of the investment. Probably, Michael, you can answer this one.
I think that one of the issues, I think you will find that in the immediacy after the pandemic, that the local sources of equity finance will come from high net worths who are prepared to take what is perceived by some to be a very high risk, but they would expect commensurate returns with that risk. I think if you are, and probably the focus would be on the residential market. If you were looking at the leisure market, then I think probably the best thing to do would be to take in a brand with you, someone who has either a regional or a global presence, which you can then piggyback on. One of the things that I have noticed in emerging markets, and Bulgaria is another one, you know, they have a fantastic outdoor lifestyle compared to Western Europeans, and they have so much history, and yet they spend so little time marketing that, and that is a challenge that I think countries like Georgia will face, and without a national or an international operator, it may be difficult, and that has to be done at governmental level, I would have thought.
Thank you, Michael. So, Sujit, what do you think? Do you have any suggestion on the localization from the point of view of investor?
Thank you. I agree. I concur with Michael in that this is definitely the time where one needs to focus on developing relationships and to establish or to revive or to sustain a relationship. It's easier with high net worths or family offices. The institutional mindset, which will be slightly different at this moment, where they're constantly reevaluating themselves, and they may not be actually transacting until they see where the dust settles. And it goes back to that earlier point I said. This is a great time to devise a market outreach program. And there is enough databases available out there of these people. So people you would not have otherwise contacted would be a good point of contact. And that may not be for an immediate transaction, but at least you know that you can start the conversation and develop it. Local markets do have, and we've seen this with India and other markets, one should not underestimate the capital available in local markets. We often tend to look far out when we have cash in our backyard. So there is definitely cash in these markets. And, you know, for developers, it may be a question of looking at going in with an established local finance house to look at retail products maybe, because generally right now we're getting a lot of demand for retail debt-driven products more than equity. So maybe there is a way that you could tie up with a local finance house who's got distribution capabilities or an established brand and come up with a specific set of assets and look at a bond perhaps. So innovative financing is definitely the name of the game, and most certainly look inwards, and I'm sure the cash is there.
Thank you, Sujit. Thank you. So let's go to another country. We have today with us Romania and Dan Negulescu. He's the NAR, National Association of Realtors of USA Ambassador for Central Europe 2019, and he's a realtor, and he's a very big global expert on Romania. So probably you can share the situation which is now in Romania and what is your questions to our investors, please.
Yeah, hello everybody. First thing, we do not have FIAPSI yet in Romania. That's the big problem. From this we start everything. Okay, now about our country. So we had a lockdown until yesterday, in fact. Now everything is slowly starting to move. Restaurants are closed, hotels are closed, but they are preparing from the 1st June. It seems that everything will be, let's say, open with logical health measures. Regarding something specific about Romania, we are a country of owners. More than 95% of the people in Romania decided or were forced to become owners. And I will explain a bit this, because in the communist time, you know, the state took all the properties, and after that, after the revolution, state sold with very low prices to everybody the houses in which they stayed. It means now almost everybody has already a house or wish a house. So the demand for residential, even if it's only 5% out of the people, is huge. They want to buy a house or another house to feel that they are owners. So this is a specific, and I think we are the largest country from this point of view in the world. In all the statistics, I saw that ownership is the largest in the world. Regarding the questions, I thought that it would be very interesting to find out what will be the focus for investors in the future, post-pandemic. It will be residential or office, because we know that the office market can disappear in a way. And I already discussed with some developers here of offices which are thinking to redesign the buildings from offices to residential, knowing the fact that we would like more houses. So this is the first question. What would be the focus, in your opinion, for Romania, if it's good to still invest in offices or in residential? And the other question, this is very interesting for me. How are you assessing a country for investment? Because you heard something from Ukraine, something from Bulgaria, something from Georgia, now from Romania. What are the criteria? What are the factors for you to decide to invest in that country and not in the other country? This is what I would very much like to find out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. So who wants to start answering? York, probably you can.
I think Michael is still very expert.
Yeah, Michael, please.
Yeah. Okay, so I first time I went to Romania was in 2009, and we had 4 developments in Romania, and one we have subsequently sold, one, the bank foreclosed on us, and we built out the others and effectively sold them to the local partner. And one was a plot of land that we didn't develop. Since 2009, I think the market in Romania has developed a lot. And if we look back over the last 4 years, 4 or 5 years, the office market has been increasing. I mean, steadily increasing, though there have been dips and kind of increases. So that if you look, I think last year, 700 million of office sales took place in Romania, and the majority of those are in the capital, Bucharest. But there is a growing market in probably 3 other regional centres: Cluj, Timișoara,
Cluj, yes.
Cluj, Timișoara, and Iași, probably. They're the kind of 3 regional cities. There has been some yield compression. There has been some rental growth, but there were a lot of opportunities came onto the market, the office market, at the end of last year, the beginning of this year, and I think that will have an impact on vacancy rates, which will then have a potentially depressing effect on rental levels. However, I would say that the market in Bucharest especially is well established from an international investor perspective. And certainly there are presence there from all the international brands which invest. But it is also a very localized market, in that if you look at the developers, you have one big developer, Global Worth, which is backed by South African investors. That accounts for something like 25% of the property market, excluding residential, in Romania. The next one is Julius, which did the malls. I'm not quite sure if the pronunciation is correct. Julius malls, and then the next one with 5% is kind of Immo Finance. 63 or 64% of developers are local and financed locally. So it's getting that grade A stock to a position where international investors will come in and will take a long-term view. And that comes with financial stability. It comes with liquidity in the market. It comes with political stability, which is a little bit suspect at the moment. And, so there are, if you like, there are loads of things positive for Romania from an international perspective. And also you have the population. If you look at the countries we're looking at, Ukraine's 45 million people. Romania is probably 25, 27 million, something like that.
20.
20. Okay. I was giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you.
So, they are all good things for the country. But I think if we look at 2008-9, international investors just went back. And so picking up on what Sujit said, I think there will be a period where you will see investors, and I think actually Global Worth was selling a portfolio of properties in March, April, and that stalled. I'm not sure the reasons why that stalled, but that could well have stalled because of the market and people just deciding to sit on their hands and wait and see what happens.
Thank you, Michael. I will just say that we have 3 minutes to consider everything, but we had the last question of Dan, which was about the criteria, and I think it was the first question of Anna, which she posed at the very beginning. What will be the criteria to choose the partner? She said, and Dan is talking about the criteria of choosing the country. So please, probably, who wants to conclude this with this answer?
Well, this is a quite challenging question, to be honest. Yes, it is not that we are sitting there and just rolling the dice and say, if there is a sixth, then we go into Ukraine. No, it is a lot of hard work, research work, and just let's say get the first shot on that. So, well, this could be interesting because of the numbers, yeah. And then, of course, there is a lot of traveling, and especially, you know that, Katerina, so a lot of meetings, meeting people, and getting an overview and let's say a touch and a feeling of this country and see the potential in that. Yeah, and then of course, if your heart is then fulfilled, yeah, with this country and economy and potential, then you only can transport it also to potential investors. Yeah, but for that there is a lot of research. Of course, you cannot discover every country all over the world who is considered as an emerging market. So you just pick some, and that this could be interesting, especially Romania, Bulgaria. Michael and I, we have quite, let's say, a long history and already familiar with that. Ukraine, I stepped in as a first person from our company, said, well, this should be interesting, yeah. And it continue like that. Georgia as well, yeah. One time there, and then continue working on the numbers, finding partners, how the developments are going, yeah. So see example development, make comparisons to other countries, and as well as India, yeah. As Sujit maybe recalls when we were together first time in India, and have a look at that. So it was my first step in that, and I was convinced from the very first step even, yeah, because what's going on there. So of course there is a lot of personal feeling, because you need that as well to give this fire back to investors. Yeah, if you only can present a country where you would like to have them invested, when you can present them as your own country, then it's the right choice. Yeah. And so this is a lot of work, and not only because making holiday there, so really a lot of work, meeting people, seeing projects, yeah, making research and monitoring on the numbers, everything. So sometimes it lasts up to a year until we decide now it's the time to go in there. Yeah.
Can I just jump in just to add, Dan, to what you said? I think the fact is, of course, we do choose countries, but I think really investors select developers than countries. So it doesn't matter which country you're in. When we do come out to select developers, what we look out for is transparency and what is the veracity of the data you provide us. And I think that's a very important point in there. So investors are investing in you as a developer, not the country.
Right.
If you got your housekeeping correct, and if you got your data correct, and you're able to communicate that in a clear, concise fashion, that then, as Jörg said, builds the trust, and that's where it all starts from.
And I just add, I think that there are, I think as an investor, you're also looking at the rule of law, how well it's implemented, what the banking structure is like, and whether you have an opportunity to exit from the investment as quickly. And then it will, as both Jörg and Sujit said, it's all about the developer, because he is the person, or she is the person, who will decide whether the investor gets a return or not ultimately. And if they are dishonest, which there are a few, one's been told in the past, they will, you will find that then you need to fall back on the rule of law to implement the contracts that are in place.
So finally, everything is about trust.
It's all about trust.
Right.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to make a final roundup because we are exceeding the time for our attendees who are here. Everyone, just one sentence, what you suggest to the professionals in real estate in different countries who are watching this webinar today. What you suggest them to do the next after they will see this webinar? So what they should do as a real estate professionals, what to check, what to do.
This is a tricky question, Katarina, really. So
one sentence, like an advice which is coming up.
Yeah, so just I can just say, well, stay calm. Yeah, don't panic. Focus on what your skills are. Focus on what your country maybe can really do. Maybe you can even give some support to that. And yeah, so we will all go together out of this crisis because we all hit it at the same time. We all will go together out of this crisis. And I think there will be even a different help between other countries or between the countries. And I just think focus on what can be the future for our market, real estate and investment, yeah? And then discuss it with your, let's say, experts together, with your friends together, and with outstanding people, and then focus on that, monitoring that, and work on that. So just stay calm and believe it will continue in a different way, a new normality, but we all stand together and we will rock it.
Thank you. It was a long question, no, long sentence. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, so Michael, please, your suggestion.
I would just assimilate the projects that you have available and hold on to them, keep the developer on side, and then in time start looking for the finance. And in the meantime, start looking for the finance. And as Sujit said, reach out during these periods and approach all the various funding houses and finance houses, because you will get to a much higher position within that organization structure than you would get today. Sorry, later on.
Thank you. And Sujit, please.
Yes, my closing line is, as I was saying, analyze data, and as Jörg said, stay calm, verify the data in the coming few months, and then finally apply it as we come out of it. And I think we all should remind ourselves, real estate is a sector which is always going to be around, and as Mark Twain said it, God stopped making land. So we should be able to work on this precious commodity and come out of it. So stay focused, stay calm, and stay healthy, which is important, and we'll all be out of it.
Yes, and I would like to give some words to our experts as well, to say final words after this. Yes, one sentence to each of you. Anna, please.
Thank you, Katerina. Thank you to all of you about this very interesting information you're sharing with us. For me, especially, it was very good to hear today that investments, it's not just the numbers. It's a personal feeling, as Jörg just said. So it's more about trust and it's more about a relationship. That's why I believe very much that such kind of organization as FIAPSI can give to their members a lot of opportunities to do business together and to do international business, first of all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, Ivan.
All the messages was quite nice and clear. I was just thinking, listening to all the presentation, that basically we should rethink the so familiar slogan of think global, act local, and reverse it,
Right.
Especially after we are about to recover. If we start thinking, I wouldn't repeat it, actually get the point. And one last thing, find a decent developer and then start acting.
Yes, thank you very much. And please,
we are all
Irakli.
heading into positive times.
Yeah, I think what I can say in general, we are very positive people in Georgia. So we think that every crisis brings some opportunities, and it's a good time to change, and not only for the companies, but also maybe it's opportunity for the countries to find the new opportunities in the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very positive.
Dan?
Think of this not as a crisis, but as a possibility of adapting our economy to a new future. Trust in yourself, trust in what you're doing, and let's trust together, all of us, because together we will get out from this situation, not crisis. Forget about the crisis.
Thank you. And probably, Dmitry, you want to add something at the end? We don't hear you. Switch on.
Yes. Thank you, friends. Thank you for your thoughts, for your expertise, because it helps us in future make more for our emerging market. Yes, that's why. Thank you. It was good.
And from myself, I want to say thank you to everyone for this amazing event. We were trying to do it fast, but we have 8 minutes more. So thank you very much for everyone. And we will share the information which we have collected like from our experts who wants to share something with the attendees of this webinar. We can make the sending of email with all the slides which you want to share with them, and we will share it. And we invite you to our next events, because we are going to have these kind of events in the future. And I think it is a good format to have different points of view from different countries. We can really think local now and then act global as we do now. So thank you very much for this great evening, and have a nice day today, everyone who joined. Thank you very much. And all your questions we will send to our speakers and experts, and they will give you the answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Stay healthy.
Rina, for your moderation.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. And thank you to Olena for the translation.
Thank you.